I'm Greg Euland, Marketing Director at Reynolds and Reynolds, and this is Connected, the podcast with best practices and ideas to help navigate what is happening in the automotive retail industry and the world today. As the COVID-19 virus continues to change our world and how we live and work daily, this podcast discusses ways to continue operating in this unprecedented social environment. On today's episode, we have with us Rudy Nieto. Rudy's the Sales Vice President for Enterprise and OEM Sales at Reynolds and Reynolds. Rudy, thanks so much for joining us.
Howdy, good morning.
Morning, it's good to have you on. Rudy, before we hop in, obviously we have a little bit different setup on today's episode. We also have with us Jessica Radnicki from Reynolds and Reynolds. Jessica will be the new host of Connected going forward. Jessica, thanks so much for coming on.
Thanks, Greg. I'm excited to be here.
Good. Well, Rudy, I wanted to get into it today and talk with you about the larger groups in the country. You get to work with some of the largest dealership groups out there every day. How's it going for them, and how are they handling this situation?
Well, I think they have a similar immediate approach to all the other dealer groups out there. Is first and foremost, they've been very concerned about the health and safety of their people and their customers, and so it's been a process of going through making sure everybody's safe and taking care of first things first there, and then quickly thereafter figuring out how are we responding to this new normal. And the longer it's gone on, the more the new normal is setting in as more of a permanent kind of condition as far as the way consumers look at a transaction with a car dealer.
Yeah, for sure. And in that light, I mean, anything specific that you're seeing those larger groups do that maybe we could share, or is it kind of common, some of the same common practices that we're seeing across all dealerships?
I think the interesting part is the move to digital and the words like touchless transactions, whether it's in fixed operations or in variable operations. I think that was a pretty logical progression. A lot of them saw that when the COVID really took hold in mid-March, they all had some level of plan in place on making that pivot. And not to say that they were waiting for something like COVID, of course, but they knew that there would be something that would cause that to pivot, and consumers would, the consumers and their employees, moreover, would be more willing to adopt that full digital experience. So the dealers that have been planning and have always had a backup plan, I think all the large groups pretty much did in different ways, and they've all been able to react and execute, and they have not spent a whole lot of time arm waving and saying woe is me. They've said, okay, well, this is just the market reality, and we've had some very good years leading up to this, but I think they've all been in business long enough to understand the cyclical nature of automotive, and sometimes they get caused by pandemics, and sometimes they get caused by, what happened with all the banks in 2008, 2009, or 9/11 in 2001, or, oil busts, embargoes, recessions. There's all different causes for these things. But one of our largest dealers, who I think is, you see some videos of him on our website, he made an interesting remark. Because I asked him, how are you doing? What can we be doing to help better, help better digitize your stores? And we went through a lot of the solutions, but what he said at the end was, he said, Rudy, I wish I had a video of myself coming out of that 08, 09, 2001, oil embargoes, recessions. I wish I had videoed myself every time, because I've never had better habits coming out of those bad times than those moments when we all just really had to pick ourselves up by the bootstraps and come out of it better. And what he notices is, over time, as business is really good, you kind of need to watch that video of yourself and say, okay, am I really taking advantage of the opportunity I have right now by being the most efficient and the most forward thinking that I can be because when business is good, kind of that rising tide is lifting a lot of boats anyways. But in this time, you really got to be on your game to be successful. So I'm encouraging of all dealers to we are going to come out of this, and customers are going to buy cars differently. We're going to service cars differently. I think Reynolds solutions are going to probably behave differently. But my hope is that we don't forget the pain, not to say I want everybody to feel pain, but I don't want anybody to forget the pain and sacrifice that it took to come out of it. So that way, this is going to eventually happen again. We'll be just as prepared to head this on next time, whenever the next cycle hits. So a lot of optimism in the groups. I think their people are all very motivated, which is a common theme that I see with Reynolds as well. That speaks to good leadership. And I think they're also looking at acquisitions going forward, because that if there are stores that are saying this is too much and this COVID stuff, I just can't deal with it. I mean, I think that could be a dynamic. It's an unknown right now, but I think everybody's looking to come out of the gate strong as soon as we can start doing business again.
That's good to hear. That's good to hear. And Rudy, what do you think that optimism that you mentioned is driven by? I mean, are you starting to see and hear some positive momentum in the marketplace as far as sales and demand goes?
Just from understanding the CRM volume, we get some insights, and this is maybe more of an OEM related thing, but the number of consumers shopping online is obviously going up, over 100%. The transactions have not yet, but what's happening is just like if you saw the growth of Zoom over this 45 days to 60 days, consumers are really getting more comfortable, and dealership personnel are getting much more comfortable going through the web, just like we're doing right now. A year ago, you would have had me come out to Dayton and record this with you. So I think just everybody's overall comfort and adoption has been pretty substantial. So I say that, and somebody's going to probably Zoom bomb us in just a minute. But I think that's going to change dealers' perception of how they can operate. Our showroom's going to go away? No, but our showroom's going to change in how they get utilized. I think it's highly likely. Dealers are finding they can do a lot of things differently and more efficiently. Does that mean less people? Not necessarily, but does that mean the people they have can be more effective in their jobs? I think that answer is yes. I mean, without a doubt, things like consolidated accounting are a hot topic right now. If you're a 50 store group, there's no point in having 50 accounting offices. You can go to one pretty quickly in that example. So for those that have not made that turn, I think they're all looking heavily at that. And they know that people are going to still need to get their car serviced. And I think they can be okay with selling a few less cars if the cars you're selling, you're optimizing all your growth, your gross opportunities. Keeping your costs down. Digital helps them do that.
So Rudy, it sounds like there's a lot of positivity that can actually come out of this. What about OEMs? How have your interactions been with them, and how are they handling this?
Well, I think the most refreshing thing, and again, I hate to use the word, pain, but in times of crisis, it really level sets everybody. And, as we've gone up in the cycle and all the OEMs are jumping up and down to push more metal, this is forcing them to think differently. Obviously, the OEMs have had some furloughs, and some of them have said, go ahead and take your vacations or don't come back for a month. They've halted production. Some of that's happened. The OEMs have always kind of been rumored to say, well, we don't really need the dealer to transact with the consumer, or we can tell the dealer how they should transact with the consumer because we know better. And if you follow the cycles over time, that's never really panned out. And I think they've recognized again that this gut punch has taught them how important it is to their success to help their dealers be successful. So my comment to all the OEMs when they've reached out has been, this is refreshing. I'm glad that, we're paying attention to making sure that, the servant mentality of leadership is, if you help your people be successful, you will be successful by default. And I think the OEMs are operating under that line of thinking right now. They're looking for ways to make sure that their dealers are healthy and their dealers survive, because they know, just based off of what's been happening, that they cannot bypass the franchise system. It is critical to their success. So that's been refreshing, because I know that's something a lot of dealers are concerned about.
Absolutely. I would agree with that. Rudy, we just want to thank you so much again for joining today and for sharing with us. Is there anything else that you want to add?
I think everybody's projecting what's happening with the SAR. It was at 17 to 18 million. Now we're going back and forth of 12 to 13 to 14 million. But I think the most successful dealers are going to be the ones that come out of this thinking, how can we use this opportunity to get better? So a couple examples, Greg, I've seen some of the offers that we're putting out there for, free trials on new solutions, free training classes, webinars, utilization over Zoom as opposed to on-site. And all of our account teams seem to be very excited to offer this. That's one other common trend I'm seeing is, hey, while we're cooped up, great time to do a lot of blocking and tackling on how to get better. So, I would just continue to encourage dealers to look at that time to make themselves better in the interim. We have a lot of things we can do to help be more efficient, use your software better. And I think a lot of dealers are taking those things and executing new strategies, real time as they learn some of these new things. But I would just highly encourage that kind of behavior. I'm doing the same myself with spending more time behind the scenes with OEMs and enterprise groups, making sure that they're maximizing their opportunity, because there's going to be a race for all these customers when things open up and people say, let's buy cars. One thing I think everybody's forgotten is after these stimulus checks come out, nobody submitted their taxes on time. So there actually may be a little delayed rush from people getting their taxes submitted when they're due July 15th. So I think we'll have some wind in the sails, and there will be some cars to get sold, but we're going to get through this.
Very good. Well, Rudy, thanks so much for coming on and taking some time out of your day. It was definitely nice to talk with you.
Okay. Happy to talk to you guys. Y'all have a good one.
All right, you too. And Jessica, thanks so much for coming on, and we'll see you next week.
All right.
This has been Connected. Stay safe, and we'll see you on the next episode.